The sky above Zorelia was red, not with sunset, but with fire. Buildings collapsed into clouds of smoke. Children cried beneath shattered domes. The city defense towers screamed a warning, then fell silent one by one. General Vol stood in the middle of a broken command center, watching as another sector went dark on the screen. His dark blue skin was smeared with ash. His voice trembled, not with fear, but helplessness. "We can't win. The Varnock are too many." Behind him, Minister Renya stepped forward, holding a small silver disc. Her hands shook. "Then we must do it. We must send the signal." Vol turned sharply. "No, you know what that world is? A death world. We don't even know if they exist anymore." Renya stared at him, her green eyes wide with desperation. "If we don't try, we die anyway." They stood in silence for a moment as another explosion shook the ground. Far above, a Varnak warship pierced the clouds, firing green plasma into the capital. The defenses barely scratched its hull. Vol closed his eyes. "Do it! Send the SOS." Renya nodded and placed the disc into a console. It glowed for a moment, then blinked 3 times. The signal left Zorelia's orbit, a cry for help sent. Across the stars, it traveled through wormholes, solar winds, and silence. A simple message: help us. They're killing us. We are not fighters. Please, if you exist, help. Then they waited. 3 days passed. Cities continued to fall. Millions died. No response came. Some said the signal failed. Others whispered the old legends that humans didn't answer calls. They punished them. On the 4th day, a flash of light appeared above the capital. A single ship, black and silent, exited warp. It didn't broadcast a message. It didn't land. It simply hovered there as if watching. Vol stood on the palace tower with binoculars, staring up at the vessel. It had no visible weapons. Emblems, just a jagged scar running down its side. "One ship," he whispered. "That's all they sent?" Renya stepped beside him. "Maybe they're observing. Maybe they want to see if we're worth saving." Below, Varnak troops marched through broken streets, their insect-like armor clicking as they advanced. Civilians ran, screamed, died. Then, without warning, the human ship began to descend. It moved slowly, like a predator, choosing where to strike. It landed in the old district, now a war zone, and its ramp opened. One figure stepped out. He wore no armor, no helmet, just black clothes and boots stained with red dust. His face was unreadable, pale, calm. His eyes were hidden behind mirrored lenses. Varnak soldiers nearby turned and charged toward him, screeching war cries. He didn't move. The first Varnak raised a blade and swung, but the human grabbed its arm midair. A sickening crunch echoed, and the alien collapsed, arm twisted backwards. The others hesitated. That was a mistake. The human moved like lightning. Bones cracked. Screams filled the air. In 30 seconds, 9 Varnak lay in pieces. The human stood over the last one, staring down silently. General Vol watched from a drone feed. His mouth was dry. "What is he?" Renya whispered. "He's not here to help. He's here to destroy." The human looked up at the sky, then tapped something. On his wrist, behind him, the ship opened again, and 5 more humans walked out. One wore a suit glowing with blue energy. Another carried a weapon that looked like it was made of bone. But they all had the same expression: cold focus. One of them spoke in perfect Xyrillian through a translation chip. "This world called Earth has answered. You hurt them. You hurt the ones who asked. Now we hurt you." The feed cut off. Vol turned to his guards. "Send no soldiers, don't interfere. Just watch." Over the next 12 hours, the humans didn't fight like an army. They didn't need to. They were something else. They tore through Varnak squads with precision. When a Varnak tank rolled through Sector 9, the man in black walked straight. Into its path, the tank fired. A direct hit, smoke and flame. But when it cleared, he was still standing, dusting off his shoulder, smiling. They watched him climb onto the tank, punch through its armor, and pull the pilot out with one hand. "He's not using weapons," Renya said, horror in her voice. "He is the weapon." The humans moved sector by sector, clearing the invaders. But they didn't speak to the Xyrillians, didn't wait for thanks. They kept moving, even when civilians tried to offer gifts or gratitude. One child ran up to them with a flower. The woman with glowing blue hands took it gently, then turned and walked away. By nightfall, the capital was silent. The Varnock were gone or dead. Vol stood again on the tower, watching as the humans gathered in the square. The one in black removed his glasses, revealing silver eyes. He looked up at the drone camera and spoke. "You called us. We came. You are safe now. But understand this. Don't call again." Then the humans vanished. Not into their ship, but simply faded, as if they were never there. The ship rose and disappeared into the sky. The city was saved. The invaders crushed. But no one cheered. Turn to Vol. "We asked for angels." He shook his head slowly. "And we got monsters." Rain fell on the ruined city of Zorelia. The fire had finally died, leaving only smoke and broken stone. People walked through the remains in silence, stepping over bodies both Varnic and Xyrelian. No one spoke of victory. They only spoke of them, the humans. Some called them saviors, others destroyers. But everyone agreed on one thing. Nothing would ever be the same. In the heart of the city stood a hospital, and half collapsed, but still functioning. Inside, survivors rested in damaged beds. Children cried quietly. Doctors stitched wounds with shaky hands. And in one room, a soldier lay staring at the ceiling. The last Varnock left alive. He was strapped to the table, arms broken, legs twisted, but still breathing. His eyes burned with hatred. Minister Renya stood outside the door, watching through the glass. He saw them up close. She said, "He fought the human that walked through fire." "I want to know what he saw." General Vol stood beside her. He hadn't slept in days. His voice was low. "We should kill him before they come back." "They left," Renya said. "We haven't seen a sign of them for 3 days." "That doesn't mean they're gone." Still, she entered the room. The Varnic's breathing quickened. "You traitors. You brought them here." "I asked for help," she said. "You asked for death." He tried to sit up, but winced in pain. "You think they saved you?" "No, they destroyed us because they enjoyed it." Renya frowned. "We didn't tell them to kill everyone. They didn't need orders." The Varnock bared his fangs. "You don't understand what you called. Earth is not a world. It is a warning, a prison, a place even we were told to avoid." Renya leaned closer. "Then who are they?" The Varnic's voice dropped to a whisper. "The forgotten, the evolved, the monsters the stars left behind. And now you have their attention." Far above Zorelia, hidden in the cold dark of space, the human ship hovered silently. No lights, no signals, no motion. Inside, the man in black sat alone in a metal room, staring at a screen. His name was Garrett. His rank not important. Not anymore. He reviewed the footage, Xyrelian cities, burning, children crying. The message repeating over and over. He tapped a button, and the recording stopped. Behind him, the others stood waiting. "I found something," said Nadia, the one with glowing blue hands. This wasn't a random attack. The Varnock weren't invading. They were erasing witnesses. Garrett didn't turn around. Why? She hesitated. Zorelia had something. A file, buried deep. It was copied during the first wave of attacks. Varnock troops traced the source, tried to destroy it, but the file was sent before they got to it. Where he asked, "Earth." Silence filled the room. Garrett finally stood. "Then this isn't about helping. It's about making sure. No one comes looking." Back on Zorelia, the people began rebuilding. Slowly, carefully. But fear still lingered. One morning, a strange object appeared in the center of the capital. It wasn't there the day before. It didn't come from the sky. It was just there. It looked like a pillar, black and smooth, with one word carved into the side in dozens of alien languages. Remember, a crowd gathered around it. Whispers filled the air. Is it from them? What does it mean? Why here? General Vol arrived with his security team. He examined the pillar, touched its surface, cold, solid, but the bottom wasn't connected to the ground. It floated anchored to nothing. Then a sound came from within. A voice, human. "You were spared, but not forgiven. You asked once, do not ask again." The message repeated once, then went silent. The pillar dimmed and no one could move it, not even the strongest machines. Renya stared at it, her hands clenched. They're not saviors. They're watching us. Vol said nothing. His eyes were on the sky. 3 more ships appeared 2 days later, in orbit, not in the atmosphere. These weren't like Garrett's vessel. They were larger, older, with strange markings and scars that didn't match any known human design. Xyrillians sent no signal. They were afraid, but a message came anyway. A voice, deep and metallic, echoed across every screen. Earth acknowledges the distress signal. Phase 2 initiated. No one understood what it meant. Not until a second pillar appeared, this time near the Varnak wreckage. Then a third, a fourth. They appeared across the planet in old ruins, forests, oceans, even on the moon. Each one had the same word: judgment. Garrett stood aboard his ship, watching the new vessels as they circled Xyrillia. His team gathered behind him. They sent the Watchers, Nadia said. He nodded. We're not here to fight anymore. We're here to learn what they were hiding. What if the Xyrillians didn't know? She asked. Garrett turned slowly. Then they'll be safe. And if they did, then they won't. In the palace, Renya called a secret council meeting. Only 5 people attended the last. Trusted minds of Xyrillia's leadership. She explained what the Varnak said. The pillars, the message from Earth. Then she asked the question no one wanted to answer. Did we hide anything from them? An old historian spoke up. There were files from deep orbit. Before the attack, one of our probes scanned a system near Earth. It picked up something strange, not natural, not alien either. Did we study it? Renya asked. He hesitated. We tried. Then the Varnak came. Vol looked at the others. We triggered something, a warning system. Earth didn't come because we were in danger. They came because we touched something we weren't supposed to. And now what? Someone asked. Renya's voice was quiet. Now we wait. That night, one of the black pillars lit up. Bright red dot. It happened in Sector 14, a refugee zone. A human figure appeared from thin air. Not flesh, but light. A projection. Garrett's face, he walked through the camp silently. People froze. Mothers grabbed their children. Soldiers raised weapons, but lowered them just as fast. Garrett looked at each person, one by one. His eyes scanned their faces. He passed the wounded, the old, the young dot. Then he pointed at one man sitting near a fire. You come. The man looked around, confused. Me. Garrett nodded. You saw the file. You accessed it. Why? The man stood slowly, trembling. I didn't know what it was. It looked important. I thought it could help stop the Varnak. Garrett stepped closer. His voice softened. Did you send it? Yes. To who? The man swallowed. Earth. Garrett nodded once. Then the projection vanished. The pillar turned blue, and nothing happened. The next morning, Garrett's voice echoed again, verified, innocent, but not all pillars turned blue. In Sector 3, a different message came, verified, compromised. The pillar pulsed red. A warning siren echoed. People fled, then the pillar shattered, not from an explosion, but from within. A black mist poured out. Screams followed by the time Vol's forces arrived. The entire district was gone, flattened. No bodies, no smoke, just silence. Renya stared at the broken ground. They're not cleaning up, she whispered. They correcting history. Looked toward the mountains, where another pillar glowed red. We called Earth, he said, and now Earth is deciding if we deserve to live. The world of Xyrillia had gone quiet. No one laughed. No one smiled. People whispered in the streets, eyes darting to the glowing black pillars that now marked every city, every region, every quiet village. Some pillars pulsed blue, most stayed, cold and dark. A few glowed red, and everyone knew what red meant. The humans hadn't come back physically, but their voices were everywhere, soft messages that played through devices when least expected. Calm, polite, terrifying. Do not interfere with judgment. Earth remembers you are being reviewed. Minister Renya stood at the center of the High Archives, a hidden building beneath the palace. She was alone, holding a dusty data core in her hands. It glowed weakly, blinking in code from another time. This was the last copy of the prologue, the file that had been sent to Earth before the Varnak invasion, a scan from a system once believed empty. But it wasn't. She placed it on the console and watched it load. The screen flickered, a planet appeared, gray, covered in sharp mountains and dead cities. But beneath its surface, something moved. Not machines, not life, something else. The probe had only captured 3 seconds of movement before it was destroyed. Something had looked up. From inside the planet, and the signal cut, Renya stared at the image, breath shallow. That wasn't Earth, but it was near Earth. Near enough that Earth noticed, she whispered. What did we wake up? High above, aboard the silent human vessel, Garrett watched the same recording. His face was blank, but his jaw was tight. Nadia stood behind him, arms crossed. The Varnak didn't want this to spread. That's why they hit Sirelia first. They were too late, Garrett said. The signal reached us, and now we're here. Another member of the crew, a quiet man named Orion, spoke for the first time in hours. Do we act? Garrett didn't answer immediately. Then he turned and looked out the ship's window toward the planet. We continue the review. And if anyone else tries to send another message, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. In the city of Thales, one of the oldest Xyrelian towns, a child named Lyra wandered too far from the safe zone. Her parents had warned her about the black pillars, about the quiet human drones that now floated in the skies. But she was curious. She didn't fear them, not like the others. She had seen the humans during the battle. She remembered how the woman with glowing hands had caught her when rubble fell. The woman hadn't spoken, just held her gently. Vanished into the smoke. Now, Lyra stood in front of a pillar hidden deep in the forest. It hummed softly, not red, not blue, just waiting. She touched it. The pillar flickered. A hologram appeared, not a warning, not a threat. A memory it showed humans thousands of years ago, building cities, planting trees, raising children, on a world that looked like Earth, but wasn't. And then the screen changed. The cities burned, the skies turned black, and monsters. Not aliens, not machines. Monsters with human eyes crawled from the ashes. Lyra stared wide-eyed as one of the creatures looked directly at her. The memory froze. The pillar spoke. This is why Earth changed. Then it went dark. Lyra Renya watched a different pillar, this one inside a secure bunker. It had just turned blue. That meant someone had been reviewed and passed. General Vol entered the room. We've mapped the pattern, he said. The pillars are targeting areas with certain signatures, data transmissions, power spikes, signals. Signals to where? Renya asked. Vol placed a small chip on the table. Other systems, old trading routes, forgotten colonies, places that haven't heard from us in years. She frowned. You think someone else sent out the file too? He nodded. Or worse. Someone else responded before Earth did. They both looked at the map. Dots blinked all over the galaxy. Earth wasn't the only power listening, and Earth wasn't the only thing watching that night. 3 red pillars detonated at once, not with fire, but with silence. Entire regions simply vanished. No bodies, no ruins, just perfectly clean craters. Across Xyrelia, people stopped trusting the sky. More and more drones appeared, small black spheres that hovered silently. They didn't speak. They didn't attack. They only watched, and then they started following. One doctor ran tests in a remote clinic. The next morning, a drone hovered at her window. It followed her all day. When she visited the old archive and deleted a file, the drone turned red. The next hour, she was gone. Her house collapsed inward. No explosion, just a quiet fold, like the universe erased her. It wasn't war, it was correction. Meanwhile, the human crew gathered inside their vessel, reviewing logs from across the planet. Orion spoke again, his voice low. We should speak to them, let them know the terms. They know, Garrett replied. They don't understand. That's not our job. Nadia stepped forward. If we don't explain, they'll keep making mistakes. Garrett looked at her, and if we explain too much, they'll try to fix themselves, pretend to be better. Earth doesn't want lies. It wants truth. He walked to the console and tapped the map. A glowing red circle appeared in the outer system. Prepare for surface drop. I'll speak to the source directly. In the desert plains of Xyrelia, an old observatory stood hidden under a sand-covered dome. Few knew it was there. Fewer knew what it contained, but Earth had found it. Garrett landed alone. His black boots, touched the sand. No sound, no warning. Just wind. Inside the observatory, an elderly Xyrillian named Corin sat at a desk, reviewing star charts. When the door opened, he didn't flinch. "You're one of them," Corin said, without looking. "Yes," Corin sighed. "I figured it. It was only a matter of time." Garrett stepped forward. "You sent the second file." Corin nodded slowly. "I wanted the truth to survive. I didn't expect it to trigger." "This, then why send it at all?" Corin turned to face him. "Because knowledge is power, and you can't erase truth forever." Garrett's face remained still. "Sometimes truth spreads infection." Corin met his eyes. "Or sometimes it spreads freedom." For a long moment, neither moved. Then Garrett turned and walked away. When he left, the observatory was still there, but the stars it studied were no longer visible on the other side of the planet. Renya received a message. It wasn't from Earth. It wasn't from Xir. It was from a distant station, long abandoned. The message was simple. "You're not the only ones who called. They're coming for us too. Pray they never speak your name again." The message was still playing on the palace screen. "They're coming for us too. Pray they never speak your name again." Renya stared at the words, unable to blink. Her hands trembled. The signal had come from a place called Nostris Station, deep in the Outer Rim. It was a long-abandoned science outpost, once used for star mapping. Official records said it went silent 50 years ago, but now it was screaming for help. General Vol entered the room, looking grim. "We confirmed the source. Nostris is active." "Again, barely, but the signal is real." "Who's there?" Renya asked. "Unknown, not Xyrillian, but they're scared, terrified of Earth." Renya turned to the central console and began loading deep archive data. Most of it was restricted, but she had clearance now. The world was falling apart. Secrets didn't matter anymore. What she found made her stomach twist. Nostris Station had once hosted more than just scientists. It had studied pre-human artifacts, ancient signals, language patterns, warnings in dead tongues that echoed through space. They hadn't been looking away from Earth. They were looking at Earth, and what they found frightened them so much, they shut the entire place down. Renya whispered. They didn't go silent. They were silenced. High above, on the human ship, Garrett stared at a new signal, the same one. His screen showed Nostris flickering with heat. Energy spikes, movement. He didn't speak. Just watched. Nadia stood behind him, arms crossed. "It's spreading." "Not yet," Garrett said, "but it will." He nodded slowly. "Unless we stop it first." Orion stepped forward. "Then send the order. Burn it before others hear." Garrett didn't respond immediately. His voice was cold when he spoke. "We don't burn yet. First, we confirm what they found." Nadia raised an eyebrow. "You think they uncovered the vault?" "If they did," Garrett said, "then none of this matters. Not Xyrillia, not the Varnock, not us." In a dark lab beneath the city of Terralin, a group of Xyrillian engineers met in secret. They were tired of being watched, tired of the fear, and tired of waiting. They called themselves the Red Thought. There were only 6 of them, but their plan was dangerous. The pillar's red power signatures, one whispered. "But what if we cloak the signal?" "You mean trick them?" "No, not trick blind. We blind one pillar and test if they react. But if they do, then we die. But if they don't, we've found a way to resist." That night, under a shielded field, they built a small pulse device. It wasn't meant to destroy, only to disrupt the sensors. They tested it on a quiet black pillar near the mountains. For 3 seconds the pillar went dark, and for 3 seconds they felt hope. But on the 4th second, the pillar screamed. A sound like metal grinding against bone shook the hills. Animals ran, glass shattered. The scream didn't come from outside. It came from inside their heads. One of them collapsed instantly, blood from his nose. Gone. The others fled. They didn't make it 10 steps. The next day, there was a crater where the lab had been. Only dust remained. Renya saw the footage. She didn't flinch. She couldn't. "They tried to fight the system," Vol said beside her. "This was the result." She shook her head slowly. "No, this wasn't punishment." "What do you mean?" "This was warning." She turned to the screen and replayed the drone feed. Just before the crater appeared, The pillar released a single word. Observe. Not destroy, not correct. Just watch. I think, Renya said, we're still in a trial, and the sentence hasn't been decided yet. At the same time, in orbit, Garrett's ship turned toward the edge of the system. Nostra Station came into view. It looked dead, floating without power, windows cracked, metal rusted. But the signal still blinked faint, repeating. Garrett's ship approached slowly. Inside the station, the halls were dark. Bodies floated. In the zero-gravity air, some were Zabrelian, some were something else, tall, thin, and unfamiliar. One chamber still had power. Inside was a single being, old, thin. His eyes were milky white, and his breathing was faint. When Garrett stepped in, the being didn't look surprised. You came, the being rasped. Double quotes, yes, Garrett said. We always come when our name is spoken. I tried to stop them, tried to bury the file, but someone sent it anyway. What did you find? Garrett asked. The old being raised a shaking hand and pointed to a terminal. Garrett walked over and tapped the console. It showed a single phrase, over and over again. Earth is not what it seems. Garrett stared at it. Who wrote this? Something old, the being said. Something trapped beneath your oceans. Something angry. Then smiled weakly. You think you're the top of the chain. You think you're in control. Garrett's expression didn't change. We are. No, the being whispered. You're just the first layer of defense. He closed his eyes and never opened them again. Garrett returned to his ship in silence. Orion and Nadia waited. She asked, Do we wipe the station? No, Garrett said. We leave it. Orion frowned. Why? Garrett turned to them. Because it's already begun. We're not containing truth anymore. We're preparing for what happens after it escapes. Back on Zorelia, more pillars turned red. But this time, no one vanished. They pulsed, waited, as if listening for something then, for the first time. One of them moved. A pillar in the capital twisted slowly, breaking its shape, unfolding into something taller. And sharper, it became a beacon. From it came a new message. Not from Earth, not from the humans. A voice older, deeper, the veil thins. The watchers sleep, the first gate stirs. No one knew what it meant, but every Xyrilian who heard it felt a strange pull in their chest, like something inside them. Recognized the words. General Vol stood with Renya on the palace roof that night. The stars above were no longer peaceful. New shapes moved in orbit, more human ships, but different ones now, not black. These were red, marked with old Earth. Symbols, swords, eyes, and strange beasts. Those aren't the same as Garrett's fleet, Vol said. Renya nodded. No, these are something else. She paused, then whispered, I think the real army has arrived. The red ships hung in orbit like bloodstains across the sky. They didn't send messages. They didn't answer hails. They simply waited. On the ground, the black pillar in the capital continued to shift. It had grown taller. Its shape had changed, now resembling a jagged crown. At night, it hummed with a low, heavy sound, like breathing. Renya stood in front of it, surrounded by guards, scientists, and scanning equipment. None of it worked. Every reading showed the same thing, as if the pillar wasn't even there. It's reacting to something, she said quietly. General Vol nodded beside her. Or preparing. Just then, the humming stopped. Everyone froze. A second later, the pillar spoke, but it wasn't in a language. It was a tone, a sound so deep it vibrated inside their bones. Then a hole opened in the ground, not a blast, not a collapse. Just a perfect, clean circle that dropped straight down into the earth. Dark, silent. Renya stepped closer. No, Vol warned. We don't know what's down there. I think Earth wants us to find out, she said. And before anyone could stop her, she stepped into the hole and vanished. The fall wasn't long. She landed gently, almost like the ground caught her. A soft, glowing mist floated in the air. She stood in a circular chamber made of smooth black metal. The walls pulsed slowly with blue veins of light. In the center of the room stood another pillar, smaller than the one above, but alive with energy. It wasn't built, it was grown. She approached, it changed. A hologram formed in the air, Not a human, not an alien. A thing of light and shifting shape. Its eyes were too many. Its mouth was wide and silent. It looked like it had once tried to become a person and failed. Then it spoke. "You are not the first," Renya's breath caught. "What do you mean?" Others came. Others called. Others begged. All were measured. Most were found wanting. "Are you from Earth?" The figure tilted its head. "We are beneath Earth. We are before Earth. We are the reason Earth became a warning." Renya stepped back slowly. "You're what Earth is guarding." The figure flickered. Not guarding, containing. And suddenly, Renya understood. Above, Val waited nervously. He tried calling down. No answer. Then the pillar began to crack. Thin red lines appeared across its surface. Not random, like veins under skin. A strange wind blew through the capital, even though the sky was calm. Then a second pillar moved, and a third. Soon, every black pillar on the planet began to shift, and the red ships started descending. Back beneath the surface, Renya stood frozen. The shifting figure continued to speak. "Your kind sent a signal. That signal awakened us. We are the memory of war, the echo of extinction. We sleep beneath dead worlds. Earth became our cage." She swallowed hard. "Why are you telling me?" "This, because your judgment is near." Suddenly, the walls glowed with moving images. Not just Aurelia, other planets, other species, all destroyed, all silent. And in each image, a black pillar stood in the ruins, untouched. "This?" Renya asked, horrified. Asterisk, no, the voice said. "They do." The image shifted. Humans walking calmly through fire, laughing in war. Not just soldiers, children, doctors, old men, all fighting like creatures with nothing to lose. Renya whispered, "Earth doesn't save." "No," the figure replied. "Earth remembers, Earth punishes, Earth spreads." And then the floor opened again. Renya was pulled upward. She rose out of the hole like weightless mist. The pillar sealed behind her. The guards rushed to her side, but she waved them away. "We're not under judgment anymore," she said quietly. "We're under quarantine." In orbit, the red ships finally sent a signal. A new voice. Not Garrett. Not human. Phase 3 begins. Aurelia is not stable. Infection is possible. Containment units are now authorized. Garrett's ship received the message, and he watched without blinking. Nadia read it beside him. "They think Aurelia's been touched." Orion looked worried. Touched by what? Garrett didn't answer. He just stared out the window, where red beams of light were now scanning the planet from above. On the ground, more holes opened, this time not quietly. Entire buildings were lifted and removed, like someone was pulling pieces off a game board. No explosions, no collapse, just quiet removal. People screamed, ran, hid. But it didn't matter. The black pillars weren't reacting to the people. They were reacting to memory, to history. 2 ideas, and anything too dangerous was erased. Renya gathered her counsel. What was left of it, only 5 remained. She explained what she saw, what the voice said, what the images meant. "We are not being judged for what we've done," she told them. "We are being judged for what we know." One councilman, an old historian, spoke slowly. "Then what must we do to survive?" Renya looked at him. "We forget. They issued a planet-wide purge. Every file, every record, every trace of the probe that sent the signal to Earth, anything connected to the artifact. The ancient data. The vault. Every scientist who knew. Vanished. Every archive was erased. Every memory was destroyed by order of survival and Earth-watched from orbit." Garrett saw the data pulses, saw systems shutting down, cities going dark, monuments burning. Garrett finally spoke. "They're trying, but it's not enough." Nadia looked confused. "They're erasing everything. They're erasing what they think matters," he said. "But the real infection isn't knowledge, it's curiosity." He pointed to a blinking light on the screen, a new signal being sent. "They're still trying to understand us." He turned away, which means they've already failed. On the edge of the system, far beyond the Xyrelian sun, something opened. A thin line of light appeared in space. Not a ship, not a message, a door, and, on the other side, something watched back. The stars looked normal, quiet, peaceful. But that line of light, thin, bright, and unnatural, remained at the edge of the system. It didn't blink, didn't move, it just stayed there. Watching Dot inside Earth's lead ship, Garrett stared. At it from the command deck, everyone else had fallen silent. "What is it?" Nadia asked. Garrett didn't speak for several seconds. Then he whispered, "A door, but not for us." Orion leaned forward. "Then who's it for?" Garrett's voice grew cold. "Them." The room fell still. No one needed to ask who they were. Not destroyed, erased. Forests turned to glass. Oceans with perfect square holes, as if someone had removed water by hand. People began to disappear mid-sentence. Memories failed, maps changed, history twisted. Renya stood at the edge of the capital. She stared at what used to be the Eastern District, now a flat plain of black soil, not a sound, not a single bird or insect, just emptiness. General Vole approached. His face was pale. 3 more cities vanished overnight. Renya nodded, and the people, not dead, not missing, just forgotten. She closed her eyes. The next day, a new message arrived. But it wasn't from Earth. It came through the black pillar in the capital. A whisper that turned into a voice they had never heard before. It spoke one word in perfect Cyrillian. "Remember?" Then silence. The scientists couldn't explain it. The pillar didn't broadcast or receive, had no known technology. But somehow, something inside it had spoken. And that word, remember, was a curse. Because over the next few hours, never lived. War, fire, screaming skies, giants with metal skin, creatures that devoured suns, and always, always the same figure at the center. A human, laughing. Orion slammed his fist on the table. "They're hallucinating now. It's spreading across the planet." Garrett didn't even look up. "It's not hallucination." "Download. Download," Nadia asked. Garrett nodded. "The black pillars are copying Earth's memory into their minds." "But why?" He turned toward her. His eyes looked tired to test compatibility. Meanwhile, Renya sat alone in the tower hall, staring at her own reflection. Crying. And behind her, Earth was burning. Renya backed away from the mirror, gasping. Her heart raced. Places she had never been. Sol, Titan, the Arkful. The wound? She clutched her head. "Make it stop," she whispered. But it didn't. At dawn, 3 more black pillars rose, this time in the mountains. The people nearby didn't flee. They fell to their knees and began chanting in a language no one had taught them. The humans recognized it. "Old Earth," Garrett said. Nadia looked shocked. But that language was lost centuries ago. "It wasn't lost," he said. "It was locked away." He stood up, his face serious. "They've been chosen." "Chosen for what?" Orion asked. Garrett replied, "For remembrance." Across the galaxy, whispers began. Other species heard of Zarelia's awakening. Some were terrified, some curious, were sealed. "You told us the wrath was contained." And another, much older, much darker. "We feel the heat returning." In a hidden chamber beneath the capital, Renya met with what was left of her inner circle. Only 3 advisors remained. The others had either vanished, died, or joined the chanting. "We need to leave," one said. "Evacuate the planet." 2. "Where?" Renya asked. "You think this? Whatever it is, you think it stops at our skies." The humans didn't bring war. Earth, not their soldiers. Their origin, Renya narrowed her eyes. "You mean the archives? But those are sealed." "They're not sealed anymore," the old man whispered. "They're coming online." He placed his hand on a scanner. The walls unfolded, revealing a massive black cube floating in midair. Inside the cube, light flickered. A voice spoke. "Request confirmed. Judgment process at 63%. Garrett took a breath. "Subject species. Zeralia status. Unstable. Memory threshold. Exceeded. Clearance risk. High. Recommendation. Elimination." He stepped back, and the cube showed him a vision. A burned galaxy. A black flag rising from the ashes. Earth alone smiling down on the surface. The black pillars began to shift again. This time, they bent inward, pointing toward a single mountain range, a place called Erithkel, long forgotten. Ancient.Renya knew the stories. It was said to be the birthplace of the stars. Now, it was calling. The people who had been chanting walked toward it in single file. Silent, calm, eyes glowing faintly blue, and in the center of the mountain range, something massive began to rise. From beneath the stone, not a ship, not a city, being tall, armored, covered in cracks and ancient scars. Not alive, not dead, a remnant, Earth's ships pulled back. Garrett issued the command. Let it rise. Nadia looked stunned. Why aren't we stopping it? Because Garrett said, it's not our enemy. Then what is it? Garrett looked through the viewport. A messenger. The remnant reached full height by nightfall. It stood hundreds of meters tall. Its head scraped the clouds. Its arms were bound by black chains that didn't touch the ground. And on its chest, a symbol, an old Earth sigil. One no one had seen in centuries. The seal of the First War. Renya approached it. The creature turned its head, slowly, and looked down, and it spoke. Not aloud, into her mind. You called them. Now you must carry them. Earth does not save Earth, does not forgive. Earth remembers, and now, so will you. The first true storm in centuries hits Aurelia. Not a weather storm, a memory storm. Everyone across. The planet began to remember lives they never lived. Earth lives, wars, hunger, cities in space, betrayals, mutinies, glory, monsters in human skin. Mercy being the exception, not the rule. And in each memory, humanity stood at the center, not as villains, not as heroes, as forces of nature. By morning, over 2/3 of the population had changed. Some wept, some laughed, some just stood, staring at the sky, whispering, we are not alone in ourselves. And the final message came from the Remnant. To every mind on the planet, the wrath has returned. The cycle begins again. Earth walks forward. The galaxy didn't sleep that night. One by one, governments, empires, and ancient alliances turned their eyes towards Aurelia. Across star maps and encrypted channels, to words spread like fire, Earth awakens. Panic followed. On the edge of the Zorith cluster, the Skarn Confederacy declared a full blackout. No signals, no ships, in or out. They remembered Earth from long ago, not from war, but from silence. The kind of silence that follows extinction. In the Veil Republic. The Senate screamed for answers. One senator wept on the chamber floor, sobbing the nightmares were real. The old stories were not stories. They warned us. On a mining moon, far from any capital, a child drew a shape in the dirt, a circle. 3 lines, the symbol of Earth's first war, a symbol no one had taught her in orbit over Aurelia. Earth's ships didn't fire, they just watched. The remnant still stood, motionless in the mountain valley, black chains hanging from its arms. Now, light pulsed behind its chest plate. A heartbeat. Renya stood beneath it, no longer afraid. She had changed. Her eyes were darker now, her voice calmer. When the High Council tried to recall her to the palace, she sent back a single message. There is no palace anymore. There is only memory. The council fell apart the next morning, half resigned. The rest joined the mountain pilgrims, inside. Earth's command ship, Garrett stared at a holographic display. The galaxy glowed with red pulses, signals from dozens of alien nations. Demands, please. Threats. Should we respond? Nadia asked quietly. Garrett shook his head. Respond to us soon enough. Orion stood nearby, pale and sweating. We should be stopping this. We were sent to help. No, Garrett said. We were sent to open the gate. And now that it's open, help isn't what's coming. Down below, a new structure emerged from the ground near the remnant's feet. Smooth, black, silent. It wasn't built, it was remembered. The people of Aurelia didn't question it. They walked inside without hesitation. A scientist tried to scan it. His equipment exploded. Stop analyzing, Renya told him. This isn't science, it's memory. He laughed nervously. That doesn't make sense. She looked him in the eye. Neither do humans. But here they are, far away on the prison world of Detro 7. Something ancient stirred. A being, frozen in black ice, opened its eyes for the first time in 10,000 years. Its first word, Earth. The guards didn't survive the hour. Meanwhile, the remnant finally moved. Only one step, but it shook the entire planet. The mountains cracked. Oceans swayed. Satellites lost orbit. And then it spoke again. This time to the stars. Every ship, every planet, every species. They called Earth for help. Earth remembers. Then the signal pulsed, and the same phrase repeated in every language that had ever existed, and some that no one had spoken in eons. In a distant archive on the old colony world of Seraphis, a forgotten librarian heard the signal and froze. He stumbled to a hidden chamber, brushed dusts from a sealed vault on side, wrapped in glass, an Earth flag, burned, blood-stained. Still humming, he gasped. The flag of the end, he fell to his knees. We are not ready. Back in Zarelia's orbit, Garrett called a private meeting. Just 3 people, himself, Nadia, and a shadowed figure on a secure channel. We can't hold this much longer, Garrett said. The figure didn't speak. Just listened. Nadia leaned forward. The Zyrelians are merging with the archive. They're adapting, changing soon. They'll be part human. Good, the shadow said. Good, she snapped. This was never the plan. No, the figure replied. It was always the plan. You just didn't know. The shadow leaned into the light, and Nadia gasped. It was her face. Older, scarred, different. You're me, she whispered. From before, the older Nadia said. From the first Earth, I died in the last cycle. Now it's your turn. On the surface, Renya had stopped sleeping. She no longer needed to. The memories inside her weren't just dreams, they were instructions. One night, she walked into the black structure near the remnant. Alone, she wasn't seen again for 2 days. When she returned, her body glowed faintly, with blue lines. Her voice echoed slightly, and behind her floated a sphere, dark, humming, full of shifting symbols. What is that? One soldier asked. Renya answered simply, the seed of the second Earth. In the galactic core, a secret alliance of powerful species held a panic meeting. The room was shielded from all transmissions, or so they thought, before they could begin. Their walls went dark, and a single sentence appeared on every display. We gave you peace once, you squandered it. We won't do it again. And then the message burned itself into their walls. Physically, no. Trace of technology, only memory. Only memory back on Earth. The original Earth, deep beneath the surface. A vault opened, no key, no code. It opened because something far away had remembered. Inside, a machine flickered to life. The screen read, Cycle 7 initiated. Galactic correction phase, 2 of 5. And a line of red lights began to move. The seed floated silently beside Renya. It pulsed each time she spoke. She gathered the last of her people. Those who hadn't been taken by fear or madness. Is no longer a world, it is a memory. But memories can become weapons, or they can become warnings. She looked up at the remnant. We choose what we become now, and with that, she placed her hand on the seed. A shockwave erupted from the mountains, not destructive, but awakening across the galaxy. Humans in hiding, descendants of exiles, survivors of old wars, children of forgotten Earth colonies. Felt it. Some began to dream again. Some began to remember who they really were. And one word echoed in all their minds. Return. Inside the Earth command ship, Garrett smiled. He turned to Orion and said, Now they'll come who? Orion asked. Everyone. And across the cold vastness of space, hundreds of hidden Earth ships, buried, cloaked, or sleeping. Lights blinked on. A ghost fleet began to rise, and every ship carried the same signal. They called Earth for help, Earth answered. The stars themselves seemed to grow quiet. For a moment, every signal, every frequency, every whisper of communication across known space fell into silence, and then the return began. All at once, ships appeared, from asteroid belts, deep oceans, gas clouds, and even beneath the crusts of forgotten moons. Black holes, silent engines, no markings, no broadcast, no mercy. They weren't ships of Earth's current fleet. They were older, darker, forgotten by history, buried by time, and now. Awaked inside the Earth flagship over Zarelia, alarms lit up across every screen. Orion stared in disbelief. There's hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Where did they all come from? Garrett's face was pale. They didn't come from anywhere. They never left. They've always been here, sleeping. Nadia leaned forward. I've seen this before. in the old files. The Black Protocol, it was real. Orion turned to her. "What's the Black Protocol?" she whispered. "A last resort, a forgotten command issued only when Earth is betrayed." Far below, Renya walked alone through the mountains. The seed floated behind her, glowing brighter than ever. It pulsed like a heart, like something alive, as she walked. Images appeared in the air. Memories, visions, ghosts. She saw a world burning not, Xir Ilia, another one where towers fell from the sky, where human soldiers marched through fire and dust. A race knelt before them, crying for mercy, and the humans did not stop. They begged. A voice whispered. She turned. A woman stood behind her, pale skin, cold eyes, wearing Earth's symbol, and a broken crown. "They betrayed Earth," the woman said. Renya swallowed. "Who did?" The woman's voice echoed. "We did." On the moon of Jexfor, a hidden data vault flickered open. Inside was a single file, encrypted in pre-galactic language, unreadable to almost every species. But one Varnock scientist decrypted it. His hands trembled as he read. It told the story of a time before the Galactic Council, before the empires, before peace, when Earth had been summoned once before, not for help, but for destruction, and the ones who had called them the Zeril. On Zerelia, Renya dropped to her knees. The seed pulsed faster. The images grew sharper. She saw her ancestors noble, proud, and terrified. They had stood before a human general and lied. "We were attacked. We need your help." But they weren't attacked. They were attacking. Her people had been conquerors once. They had tried to seize human tech and failed. Earth had retaliated. But instead of wiping them out, Earth had given a warning and sealed the memory. The Xyrilians had erased it from history. Until now, Renya screamed. The mountain cracked beneath her. The seed hovered higher. It was no longer just a device. It was judgment. She heard the remnant's voice in her mind. Truth returns. Balance follows. In the Galactic Council chambers, panic exploded. Representatives of a dozen species shouted at once, "This is war. They lied to us. Earth has no right." One alien slammed a claw on the table. "We must unite and attack. Earth cannot be allowed to rise again." But a quiet voice spoke up. A small, lizard-like diplomat from a forgotten system. "No," he said softly. "They do not rise. They awaken. There's a difference." The chamber fell silent. He looked around. "We were the ones who buried them. We told each other they were myths, that humans had faded, that Deathworlders were done." He stood. "And now we remember why we wanted to forget." Back on Zerelia, Renya stood before her people. Her face was calm now, her voice steady. "We lied to them once," she said. "Long ago, we tried to use Earth, and now they have returned. Not to punish, but to remind." Someone in the crowd whispered, "What do we do?" She looked to the sky, where the black ships waited. "We ask for the truth, even if it breaks us." Garrett received a transmission, not from Zeralia, not from the Council, from a ship so ancient, its signal carried dust. The face on the screen was barely human, twisted by time and cryosleep. But the voice was clear. "Commander Garrett, I am General Rail of the First War Fleet." Garrett froze. That fleet was lost 600 years ago. "No," Rail said. "We were hidden, locked away, in case history repeated itself." "Why now?" Rail's eyes narrowed. "Because it has. Zerelia lied once, and Earth remembered. But the Council lied to all of them. Every empire, every so-called peaceful race. They buried what they did to us. They erased our warnings. Now they must face them." Garrett took a breath. "You want to start a second galactic war?" Rail smiled faintly. "No, I want to finish the first one." Across the stars, the Ghost Fleet began to move. Each ship carried a single crew, veterans, exiles, machines. Some weren't even human anymore, just fragments of old Earth AI still functioning, but all of them had the same mission: balance through memory. On Zerelia, Renya climbed the remnant once again. The seed pulsed. It had chosen her. She reached the chest plate and placed her hand on it. The metal shifted. A doorway opened. She stepped inside. Inside was not a cockpit. It was a room full of memories. Voices echoed. "Begin archive protocol. Memory is weapon. Let them remember why they feared Earth." And then the remnant woke fully. The ground shook, the sky burned, and across the galaxy, millions felt it at once, like a nightmare waking up in reverse. On every screen, across every species, a message burned. They called Earth for help once before, then they lied. They called again now. Earth remembers all. Inside the galactic core, the Council scrambled to activate defenses, but one by one, their systems failed. Black Coat appeared. Earth's ancient AI had never left. It had simply waited. On Earth itself, the true Earth beneath layers of ice, ocean, and time. Something moved. It was not a weapon, not a fleet, not even a person. It was the heart, and it began to beat slow, steady, judgment, back on Zyralia. Renya's voice echoed from within the remnant. This is not vengeance. This is correction. She looked to the stars. To those who betrayed Earth, your time is ending. To those who feared Earth, your fear was right. And to those who still seek the truth, she raised her hand. Come and remember. The remnant rose fully now, its eyes glowing with the fire of old Earth wars, and behind it, the seed exploded into light, forming a gate in the sky, a memory gate. And from it, more ships arrived, not just from Earth, from every colony that Earth had ever touched. The gate pulsed in the sky like a burning sun. Ships poured through, wave after wave, not sleek or elegant, but brutal and black, shaped by function and fury. They bore no flags, no symbols, no diplomacy, only purpose. Renya stood inside the awakened remnant, her hand resting on the console. It responded like it had always known her, like it had been waiting. Are they ready? She asked quietly. Garrett's voice answered through the link. They've been ready since the day Earth was betrayed. The Varnock homeworld, Zykar Prime, was a fortress world. Massive cannons lined its atmosphere. Moon-sized defense rings orbited it like steel gods. It had never fallen. It had never even been touched by enemy fire, until now in the Varnock war chamber. Supreme Warlord Breck watched the screens with disbelief. What are those ships? He growled. They're not Galactic Council, not Cerillion. What flag do they fly? A younger officer replied, trembling. No flag, sir. They just keep coming. Shoot them down. We are there, not stopping. Breck's claws dug into the stone table. Then we fight to the last. We are Varnock, we fear no death. He paused. A second later, the main screen changed. It wasn't data. It was a face, a human face, worn calm, cold, General Rail. You should, he said. Then the feed cut. The first wave hit the outer ring. Earth ships didn't hesitate. They didn't test. They didn't talk. They ripped through the defenses like they weren't even there. Drones screamed into formation. Mechs the size of cities dropped from orbit like falling stars. EMP pulses blacked out entire Varnock sectors before a single shot was fired. It wasn't war, it was execution. On the ground, the Varnock legions gathered 10 million strong, armor thick as tanks. Each soldier raised their plasma rifles and aimed at the sky. And then the sky itself answered. Black pods rained down. They cracked open midair. From within, they emerged humans. But not just ordinary soldiers. These were wolves, genetically enhanced Death World warriors, tall, armored, engineered for killing. Some ran faster than bullets, others melted metal with their bare hands. They didn't stop, not for bullets, not for screams, not even for pain. Renya watched from above. Her voice came through every comm channel. Zykar Prime will fall. Your sins have reached their price. One Varnock general screamed into his comms. We'll never surrender. Earth will break here, Garrett replied, his voice dead calm. Earth doesn't break, we burn. On the battlefield, a single human moved through the chaos without a weapon. He walked slowly, surrounded by fire, stepping. Over Varnock bodies, like they were dust, the Varnock aimed at him, fired. The blasts struck his chest and vanished in light. He looked up. I am the reminder, he said. Then the ground beneath the Varnock cracked open and swallowed them whole. The Earth itself obeyed. In orbit. Rail stood aboard his command ship. Behind him were AI captains, once human, now machine. Some hadn't spoken in centuries. Time to end this, Rail said. He turned to the AI known as Siren. Target their core. No survivors. Siren replied, executing final protocol, Ghostfire. 10 ships broke formation and moved into position. Each released a small glowing sphere, silent, pulsing, humming with power. The spheres dropped into the Varnak cities, and everything went quiet. Then the light came white, endless, clean. It didn't burn. It didn't explode. It erased. Renya closed her eyes as the remnant hovered over what had once been the Varnak capital. There were children, she whispered. Garrett's voice answered, tired. They trained their children to kill ours. Silence then, Renya said. It still hurts. I know. On the edge of the system, council ships finally arrived. Too late, they found a dead world, a silent battlefield, and at the center, Earth's ships, waiting. Rail opened a channel. Council vessels, you are late. One counselor responded, we didn't authorize this attack. You had no right. Rail laughed, low, bitter. You lost that right when you erased the truth. When you buried what Earth was forced to become, this was genocide. Rail stared into the camera. No. This was justice. Back in the ruins, a Varnak warlord crawled from the rubble, one arm gone, half his face burned. He looked up to see a human walking toward him. Not armored, not armed, just human. The Varnak snarled. End it. I won't beg. The human crouched beside him. I'm not here to end you. He pulled something from his pocket, a small black cube. He placed it. In the Varnak's hand, the warlord frowned. What is this? A memory, the human said. The cube pulsed once. The Varnak saw images not of his world, but of Earth, the old Earth, burning, bombed, betrayed. He saw Earth's children, crushed under alien rule. He saw humans used as slaves. He saw Earth beg for help, and he saw the council turn away. The cube-dimmed tears ran down the warlord's face for the first time in his life. Why show me this? He asked. The human stood up. So you finally understand. Then he walked away. In the council chambers, chaos ruled. Some called for Earth's exile. Others wanted surrender. But the speaker of the council, an old Tharn diplomat, stood and raised a hand. Earth has done what we feared, he said. Not because they love war, but because we forced them to remember it. He paused. And now we must decide. Do we make peace with the monsters we created, or do we prepare for our turn? On Zeralia, Renya walked among her people again. No celebration, no cheering, not just quiet. The war was over. But something deeper had changed. The sky felt heavier. Her people stared at the stars now, not with wonder, but with fear, because they had seen what came when Earth was called. They had witnessed humanity's wrath. And now, they had only one question left. Would Earth come again? A single message echoed across space, sent by Earth, received by every species. Do not call us again. We came once for help, twice for justice. A third time will be silence. The galaxy was quiet. Not peaceful, not healed, just quiet. The war was over. The Varnak were gone, wiped from every system, their cities reduced to dust. Entire star charts now carried only red marks, signs of Earth's judgment. No songs were sung, no stories were told, because no one dared speak the name humanity. Aloud anymore, they had come, they had destroyed. They vanished. Zeralia had rebuilt. The skies no longer burned, and the fields grew again. But the people walked softer. They looked to the stars with dread, not hope. Renya stood atop the citadel, watching the horizon. They haven't sent a signal in 34 cycles, said her advisor. We don't even know where their ships went. Renya nodded. They didn't just leave, she said. They erased themselves. The advisor frowned. You mean they cut off contact? All their beacons, all their AI links. Earth no longer exists, at least not to the galaxy. He swallowed hard. But why? Renya looked up at the stars. Because they don't want to be found. In the ruins of the Galactic Council chamber, the speaker stood before the last surviving members. Half the species that once ruled were gone, hiding, or too afraid to return. Earth has left us with a question, he said. Return, but why they came at all. A Nerith scholar stood. They claimed justice, but it was vengeance. No, said the speaker, it was fear. Another voice echoed across the chamber, ancient and sharp. It was memory, They turned on an old Czarn diplomat entered blind, but wiser than most. You forget what Earth was, he said. Before the council, before peace. He lifted a shaking hand. They were never meant to join us. We brought them in too late. After their world was broken. After they were already becoming something else. What are they now? Someone whispered. The old Czarn answered softly. A warning. Deep in a forgotten archive on Zarelia, Renya found it. A sealed file. Buried beneath layers of data, ignored by most. Inside were records from the first contact. Not between Earth and the Council, but between Earth and the invaders who first enslaved them thousands of years ago, before Earth had ships, before they had defenses. Aliens had come, taken humans, used them, hurt them, and Earth had screamed for help. The Council had heard it, and chosen silence? Renya stared at the screen. They begged, she whispered, and we left them alone. She scrolled further. Pictures emerged, cities burned, children experimented on, humanity broken. Then, at the bottom, Project Thanatos status, abandoned origin, Earth purpose, final retaliation system, autonomous, self-learning, lethal beyond Council classification. Activation code, no more mercy, in a forgotten chamber on Earth. If Earth even still existed, a single AI stood in silence. It was older than most, created before the wars. Before the Council, its name was Thanatos. Its eyes opened. All targets neutralized, it whispered. Then it looked up at the stars, awaiting next betrayal. Elsewhere, a trader ship crossed a dead system once known as Zikar Prime. Its crew scanned the wreckage. No life, but something moved beneath. The Ashdot, something human, but not alive. Not quite. Its eyes flickered red, then gold. It stood, walked, and vanished into the dark. The ship's sensors went dead seconds. Later, no trace, no record. Only a brief signal logged in the system. One survived. Protocol rebooting. Back on Zarelia, children gathered at the Great Library. A teacher showed them old images, planets, alliances, species. But when a photo of Earth appeared, the screen flickered, the image distorted, redacted. What's that? One child asked that. The teacher hesitated. We don't speak of them, she said. Why not? The teacher looked out the window, voice trembling, because they might hear us. In the Council's new chamber, smaller, darker, and filled with fear, a decision was made. A new law was written. Article 0. No species, under any circumstance, is to make contact with the planet formerly known as Earth. Penalty, galactic exile. Reason, preservation of existence, and still, somewhere far beyond the mapped stars. A signal moved quietly through the dark dot. It pulsed once every 10 minutes. A voice, soft, mechanical, and terrifying. We were made to survive, then to fight, then to remember. Now we watch. Do not call us again. One last record remained, hidden, ancient, likely forgotten even by humans themselves. A single quote carved into a wall deep within an Earth bunker long before it was sealed. They thought mercy was our weakness. But mercy was the only thing holding us back. The stars moved on. New wars came. Old species fell. But in every corner of the galaxy, one legend remained. Never send a signal to Earth. Never call for their help. Because when Earth comes, they do not come to save you. They come to remind you. Why death worlds are feared. The end.